Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever your time zone. Welcome aboard. This is Digital Transformation Talk, and I am your host, Kevin Crane. We are here today to talk about working with partners to deliver transformative change. And this is an important topic because working with partners is crucial for delivering transformative change for several reasons. Partners bring more diverse expertise to the table, and this can lead to more innovative and comprehensive solutions and approaches. This collaboration also allows for the pooling of resources, and this can enhance the capacity to tackle really complex problems. Transformative change also involves a broad range of stakeholders, and collaborating with partners allows for the sharing of these responsibilities and the distribution of the workload across stakeholders and resources. Partnerships offer a greater flexibility to adapt to changing circumstances and emerging opportunities as well. And working with reputable partners can enhance the credibility of our digital transformation initiatives. These partnerships often bring a level of trust and legitimacy, which can be crucial for gaining support from the C suite, the public, and other stakeholders. And speaking of stakeholder engagement, transformative change requires the support and engagement of various stakeholders, including communities, businesses, governments, and nonprofit organizations. And partnerships provide a platform for engaging these stakeholders, fostering a sense of shared ownership and participation. Look, ultimately, partnerships have the potential to achieve greater scale and impact than individual initiatives. By combining our forces, partners can reach more people, address larger issues, and create more substantial and lasting effect. But it's one thing to have partners or say that we're in a partnership, but yet another to really move the needle when it comes to digital transformation. So, what kinds of partners are needed and when? What makes for an effective partnership? And how can we use partnerships to improve things like organizational performance, digital innovation, customer experience? Well, that's what we'll be discussing today with a great panel of guests. So get ready for another great episode today of Digital Transformation Talk. But before I introduce our guests, as always, I do want to say that we want to hear from you too. So I want to encourage everyone today to participate. Please join in with your comments in the chat section. And if you have a question along the way for our guests, please enter them into the Q&A feature. That's where we'll be looking, and I will attempt to get some of them into the flow of the show here, and we'll have a few minutes also at the end for your questions. So go ahead and pop those into chat at any time. All right, with all of that said, let's get to our panel of guests today, starting with Rinesh Patel, Head of Financial Services for Snowflake. Rinesh, are you with us?
I am. Thank you for having me, Kevin. How are you?
I'm great, Rinesh. Welcome aboard. Where are you calling in from?
I'm based over in London, and as you rightly said, I'm the global head of financial services here at Snowflake. And really, that charter means developing our financial services proposition and really enabling our financial services customers to build and implement and utilize effectively a data strategy in cloud. Nice to be here. Thank you for having me, and hopefully, looking forward to a very productive conversation here today.
Great. Well, thank you, Rinesh. Thank you for being part of our event today. Welcome aboard. Also joining us is Dave Wilson. Dave, are you with us?
Hi, Kevin. Yes, I'm here.
Hello.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, Dave. Dave Wilson is Chief Technologist for Banking and Capital Markets for DXC Technology. Dave, where are you calling in from?
I'm calling from a place called Blackpool, which is near Manchester in the UK. So I actually am on the coastline, and I've got the Atlantic just to my left, and then I can see the west coast or east coast of the US.
Nice. Well, welcome aboard, Dave. Thank you so much for being with us. Also joining us today is Peter O'Keefe. Peter, are you with us?
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Yes, I am, Kevin. How are you?
I'm doing great, Peter. Thank you so much for joining us. Peter O'Keefe is Chief Data Officer for Banking and Capital Markets, also with DXC Technology. Peter, welcome aboard. Where are you calling in from, Peter?
I'm currently living in London and frequently of Liverpool.
Nice. All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us today. I'm looking forward to our discussion. To get us started, I'd like to draw our attention to an article published recently by CXO Today titled "The New Era of Banking, Embracing Digital Transformation and AI Innovations." The article talks about the need for banking institutions to remain both competitive and compliant. These are two different sides of doing business in financial services. Much of this is driven from current economic headwinds and rising operational costs, which have created new pressures for banks. One way banks are moving into this new era is by leveraging the power of artificial intelligence. And indeed, analysts tell us that by 2025, the banking sector is set to spend an extra $31 billion on embedding intelligence or artificial intelligence into existing systems. This investment alone shows how indispensable AI technologies are becoming to the world of banking. AI will be crucial for banks to help unlock dark data and gain more value from unstructured data, hopefully bringing about better organizational performance in terms of things like competitive advantage, customer experience, and new markets. So my question to the group today is, what do you feel the impact of AI will be in the financial services industry in 2024? And what role do you feel partnerships will play in the development and adoption of AI throughout the industry? Peter, I'd like to start with you if I could. What are your thoughts on the article?
The article is interesting, and what's very important is AI has been around for quite a while. I think it's just slowly coming into popular vernacular. We're a technology business. We've been working in and doing research around autonomous cars outside of banking capital markets for many years. Similarly, in the life science sector, the opportunities for AI have been pretty prevalent, if only for the creation of regulatory documentation based on Gen AI. But I think what's becoming more to the fore is people becoming more innovative, a little more ambitious, and that fear of change and the shackles are being thrown off a little. And I think people now are embracing the technology more and more. Where the opportunity comes to work in partnership, whether it be ourselves or our competitors in the market space, many of us have been working in the space for a while. So having had a number of conversations with clients, we can support those clients in de-risking their approach, identifying use cases that are low risk but may have a valuable return so they can start embracing the technologies, adapting the culture, and really taking things forward. So how does a partnership work? Reducing risk and leveraging from our experiences to accelerate the development and bring the rest of the C group with them.
Reducing risk, I think that's an important point with the aspect of adopting AI and leveraging partnerships. Rinesh, what is your impression of where we're headed with AI in the financial services industry in 2024? And what role do you feel partnerships will play in organizations being successful?
Yeah, just kind of following on what Peter just mentioned, I think there's a couple of things that really stand out with the article, which is very consistent with a lot of other articles. I think, firstly, financial services is a very data-driven industry. So I think most customers are continuing to accelerate their outcomes from the investment in data, as you would expect them to do so. But there's now a huge opportunity not just to democratize data and the opportunity that data brings, but also the intelligence and the productivity gain. So what you're seeing is the mass arrival of AI and large language models. That said, I engage with a lot of customers, and I think there's a real existential paradox that exists. I think that needs to be navigated. On one hand, you have customers in this industry, very much like kids in a sweet shop, excited by the incredible exponential productivity gains at our fingertips. But of course, there's also the inherent risks of ungoverned usage across ungoverned data. So yes, the article speaks to the opportunity of, in retail, of enhanced chatbots that provide, higher quality natural language experiences, if you will, and more broadly that co-pilot experience that we're seeing. But I think what we need to be mindful of is taking those considered steps of how we unleash this new technology and how we put the right governance around data. As I said, basing strategic decisions on data that can't be accounted for is a problem. So I think that's why you're seeing the commentary around AI and large language models in financial services, specifically on that governance area. I think partners play an important role. I think in a variety of areas. I think, as I said, this is a very data-driven industry. I think partners understand the nature of those business workflows, understand increasingly how organizations can really govern their data better, and then specifically what are the right opportunities to really unlock and take advantage of AI and large language models. I think that's where true partnerships will flourish.
And for those of you attending with us today, there is a link to the article from CXO today in the chat feature here today. So please feel free to click on that and take a peek at that article as well. Now, Dave, we've been talking about the use of data and the use of AI in financial services, and this is a topic that we have covered in this show in recent weeks. In fact, it was only a week or two that we talked about the concern that the financial services industry is perhaps behind the curve when it comes to digital innovation. And here we're seeing the rise of the use of AI, certainly looking forward to 2024. Do you feel that this will be a way that financial services and banks will be coming up to speed? Dave, what are your thoughts?
No, hi Kevin. Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot of excitement around AI. And the reason for that is the evolution of various technologies and platforms that support AI processing and large language models, plus the huge amount of data that's been digitized and they're available to do the analysis on. And that convergence between technology and digitized data is opening new grounds for AI in financial services. I think the reason, are they lacking? One of the things when I talk to clients is they're really keen to do, what should I be doing with AI? Where should I be going with AI? But at the end of the day, a lot of it is driven by risk because, these organizations are regulated and audited. And it's really the risk appetite of the organization that will drive a lot of the initial AI initiatives, if you will. So it's how much data are they willing to embed in various pre-trained models. It's how much of AI they want to embed in their existing solutions. And it's really the risk appetite of moving forward, which I see is one of the key influences. I think the other side as well is just a general reluctance from people. It's the mind shift, isn't it? So, with AI being a lot of exciting things, a lot of people are also worried about, have I got a job tomorrow? Because will AI actually replace what I'm doing? So you've got the human aspect of change as well. That's impacting this.
And Dave, just as an observation, sorry, Kevin.
Please go right ahead, Peter.
Oh, thank you. It's not always the risk side of the equation here. Somebody in a CDO function in a bank is going to be looking at the business outcome and value. Now, they're not running a revenue side of a P&L. They're talking to the business. The business wants to grow. But to Dave's point, there's an awful lot of blockers and there's an awful lot of trying to cut through the air whilst hitting the risk perspectives, trying to drive hyper-personalization in a retail consumer space. It is difficult. You've got privacy issues popping up all the time. You're crossing multiple jurisdictions. And a bank's fundamentally not just measured by its shareholders, but by its customers through trust. And a breach of trust can drag heavy on a bank's opportunity to grow and nurture its relationship with its customers. I think where the real opportunities are going to come, I think, again, just ideas in the payment sector, especially in Middle East, etc., where transfers between different countries are important. And how can we actually use AI to actually help those payments processes potentially and drive those things and drive efficiencies into a market that, again, is heavily regulated, but it's very expensive to send small payments abroad. So we've got to look at the right opportunities, embrace the risk, but also look at how we can deliver value to the customers throughout that marketplace. And that's just in banking and capital markets. But we are seeing adoption elsewhere that may be regulated from a health and safety perspective, but there's real opportunity to drive efficiency and also reduce the risk. For instance, the autonomous vehicle space, is it possible for a computer to drive the car safer than a human being? Can we demonstrate it and drive value? So despite the fact it's heavily regulated, we could actually significantly road accidents for both those in the vehicle, but those outside as well. So there's a balance between the outcomes and the risk.
Absolutely. It's a delicate balance, isn't it, between risk and opportunity in banking. I think that's one of the biggest challenges. We may see that change over time in 2024, certainly. All right, well, gentlemen, let's move ahead to our main topic discussion points today. And Peter, you talked about the application of not only AI, but innovation in general. So my question to the group today is what types of applications, what types of transformative journeys are there that really require partners to help us get there? We're talking about partnership and really getting ROI and innovation out of our partnerships. In financial services, what are the journeys that require partnerships to develop the application effectively and deliver the results that we're looking for? Rinesh, can you help us get grounded on where we need to put our attention today?
Yeah, I think what we're seeing is, I mean, if we take a step back and we think about where the focus is from the customer and where the focus is from a partnership perspective, I think if you think about what we're seeing in financial services again specifically, there's three key things that I see trends that are manifesting itself across financial services, both this year but also broadly into next year. First is the economic landscape. We've moved very quickly post-COVID from low interest rate environment to a high interest rate environment, very quickly from deflation to inflation, very quickly from global cooperation to what is effectively global fragmentation. And from an investment process perspective, you think about what we're seeing there, the way trading decisions are made today are very different to before. You're seeing an explosion of information for investment research with more and more data sets coming together to backtest and ideate upon. You're seeing more systematic strategies. You're seeing more principles like ESG. You're seeing more regulated environment. And the third is really around the customer, the investor, be it retail, be it institutional, be it an asset owner. They are looking for more of a data-rich, personalized, speedy experience to make more informed decisions. And this will only be accelerated by AI. So when you think about those trends and those expectations from an industry perspective, you've got to think about where today's organizations are. And if you think about a typical bank, asset manager, or insurer, there's been a lot of years of inorganic and organic investments that have been made that have created really a myriad of technology and data challenges, i.e., a landscape in any bank or asset manager insurance provider means multiple technologies, many delivery mechanisms, different formats, different data models, different layers of governance, and a lot of interdependence between systems, but no real interoperability between the systems. So what you have today is a lot of data pipelines, costly ETL, lots of different copying of data in and out of systems, a whole host of governance issues across that entire life cycle, be it ownership, be it entitlements, be it reporting. And so whilst this was a real problem for the technologists, I think what we're seeing is this evolution that understands that actually this is not just a technology problem, this is a commercial issue. So what we're seeing is an evolution, I think, over the last 12 to 24 months, away from the cloud strategy to effectively a data strategy. And I think most customers who started their cloud journeys 3 to 5 years ago, it was very much a tech-led journey where you pick a primary cloud, you start working with certain consumers, certain data sources, but the KPIs are always pretty consistent. How do I reduce cost? How do I exit from a data center? How do I get scale, efficiency? Servers are licenses are expiring. But the requirements of the business are starting coming together. And as those requirements of business start coming together, those primary cloud providers, investments that we made have limitations because no one had really thought about the data management workflow. No one had thought about the cost of addressing costly ETL. No one had thought about experience across financial services. So what you're really seeing is an evolution from generic tech to solving business problems and, specifically in areas like EMEA and APJ, regulatory considerations. So what we're seeing this pivot away from a cloud strategy to effectively an enterprise data strategy. How do you support your internal and external customers as more and more data analytics and problems arise? And I think that's where we're seeing a lot of focus. And that's where the industry is really shifting towards putting its effort and investment into. And that's where customers are really leveraging up their partnerships to really help solidify and implement an enterprise data strategy in the cloud.
Now, Dave, Rinesh is talking about an evolution from the cloud to a more of an enterprise data strategy. From your perspective at DXC, what are you seeing in terms of the role of partnerships in making that happen?
Well, I mean, first off is when we have initial conversations, have you got a data strategy? And if you haven't got a data strategy, then, we can help to actually guide you to create that data strategy. I mean, we've been talking about AI and digital transformation, and data-driven outcomes is paramount. But in order to do that, you've got to have a solid foundation in terms of data management and governance. So have you got that in place? We through partnerships we can help not only provide the advisory into that, but also actually provide solutions that will help you actually quickly get to a point where you can actually make a difference from a business outcome perspective. I think also in terms of the actual data strategy is you need to understand what is going to be used from the legacy, if I can use that, the legacy world, and what is going to be left behind and needs to be removed from the legacy world. So the actual migration of data into the digital transformation journey and making that available across all areas is a key aspect. Because the thing with data now is everyone wants access to the data scientists, the C-suite, operational staff. And not only that, they're expecting also more interactive dashboards that are self-service, driven to allow them to actually understand the insights around the data they've got. So, from our perspective, we can help with all that.
So it's not unlike the rest of the world, really. It's all about data and what you do with it, and having a thoughtful strategy about managing it and using it in ways that bring us more profit and more advantage. Peter, in your conversations with industry leaders, are there any trends that you see that's most top of mind across financial services, and how do partnerships help us achieve those?
One thing that's common, I was just reading an AWS sponsored output by MIT this morning, and there's no surprises in there. Okay, I'm going to park the Gen I piece, but look what the content and what's threatening those CDOs, and it resonates with our experience as well. When we're embracing these new technologies, we're updating an architecture. It's still the same problems we've literally been facing for 20 years. Just the new architectures give us new opportunities, new ambitions, new innovations. We've still got a few fundamental problems. These are always business issues, and historically, the IT community hasn't been great at embracing the business on delivering those, and that's been a tide change. When you're seeing backlogs being managed through the CDO platform, which invariably is reporting through a business line, not through a CIO, more through a COO, you're seeing those priorities come to the fore. Within those data strategies that both Rinesh and David talked about, we're talking about enabling a data culture where the business are actually owning that. And I still think the business on a whole are a little bit behind that. We need the business to be defining the outcomes. What's the key data parts, elements of that? And I know there's lots of language for that in the data governance world, but I don't really want to get that. How do we empower the outcomes people want? I can show you a number of experiences that we've had or been called into to sort out later, where reports are incorrect, trading decisions have been made upon those, cars have crashed perhaps, where the outcomes that the business want haven't been clearly articulated to the IT community. The model hasn't been correct. The data that's used in there hasn't been the right source. Homonyms are used and we're getting the wrong data. So we still need to focus on the same basic principles we've had issues with for 25 years when warehouses came. The new architecture of modern data platforms that Snowflake and others provide, we still need the business engagement. And that's tracked from the start of a program all the way through to delivery when the IT is being delivered. We need a whole focus around management of change. And that's what we've definitely been focusing on ourselves. And I know what competitors are doing that as well. Let's get an environment and a data culture that people embrace the new. We don't just sell the outcome to the business, i.e. the customers are going to enjoy this, but what's in it for you? People are scared of change. So let's demonstrate the technology makes their lives better. It'll keep them in a job and sustain them. It'll upskill them going forward. And ultimately manage to change and train them so they can adopt and become habitual users of the services. What we then create is a new demand community, people asking for more. Then we have the real problem, the one we all like, managing a growing backlog and prioritizing because our services are in demand. Where can we as a partner help? We cut across different industry verticals. We can disseminate different ideas. We're used to working with the platform providers, and we can innovate ideas and bringing teams of experience into play, and hence not just driving risk down, but driving outcomes forward and delivering value.
All right, very good. Well, gentlemen, in the interest of time, let's move forward to our next discussion point. And I really want to ask about partnerships and risk. Earlier, we were talking about sort of the conundrum in financial services where financial services organizations need to deal with a lot of risk and a lot of data at the same time and a lot of constraints or pressures to move into the market in perhaps new and different ways. How can effective partnerships help identify and overcome these risks? And what are some of the challenges and considerations that we need to navigate? Dave, do you have perspective on that, balancing the need to use data in more effective and profitable ways, and also the need to reduce and manage that risk? And how might partnerships help us do that?
We can help in various ways, but I mean, for me, on the risk question, the biggest risk an organization faces is not actually starting the journey, not actually embracing the new technology. So that's the biggest risk they have to overcome. I mean, the management of change and the cultural change is a big aspect of that. But in terms of partnerships, I mean, what we can bring is experience. We've worked with many clients. Many of the problems are the same, but can be solved in different ways. So we can bring that experience of like saying, have you actually thought about this? Actually, if you look at it differently, you can address it like this. Then we can come up with innovative ways of actually addressing the risk factor. And one of the things with the risk is obviously understanding the risk and understanding the impacts and actually mitigating the impact. There's a number of ways we can help, organizations do that. I think for me, it's really about what the partnership brings is the experience that we've done this before. We've done it in various different pressurized environments. And, on that we've learned. And in many cases, we can bring accelerators to allow you to accelerate or jumpstart that journey and make, the progress a lot quicker.
Well, as I mentioned in the beginning, partnerships bring a whole set of expertise and resources to the table that can help us move forward in ways that we couldn't do necessarily on our own. Ranesh, at Snowflake, how do you help folks in the financial industry do this?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of areas around how we're helping mitigate risk. It's really following on from the previous question as well. I think customers want to remove those technology bottlenecks of data identification, of discovery, of access, as more and more questions around data analytics are asked for. I think they want to allow access to that data in a secure and governed way with control and entitlements on who can and who should access data, and remove wrongful exposure, or remove the exposure to wrongful access and avoid any costly kind of fines and audits. I think from the lens of operational regulatory oversight, you're seeing regulators opine more on operational resiliency in the cloud. So how do you share between clouds is becoming a very important concept, especially when you think about the multi-cloud nature of financial services. And then you've got the risk that organizations certainly want to remove around how do they avoid their data contributing to publicly available data models when you think about large language models. So there's a variety of risks that does exist, across the data and AI and large language models paradigm. And I think what you're seeing is customers really do as they implement that data strategy in the cloud. They are taking a very strategic approach. They are building out data domains. They're implementing, data mesh. They're putting in place metadata stores, cataloging with full lineage to enable that data discovery and access. They're implementing, an entitlements framework as to who should access data, both internal data and third-party data, and really enabling a self-service experience. So what you have is the ability to be able to query that single instance of data in any language, but importantly, with that single layer of governance. I think from a Snowflake perspective, all those elements of what effectively is a data strategy, we're enabling our customers through our partners to implement. So providing them the ability to support their customers as requirements around data come up, both internally and externally, but crucially, with that governance. I think governance and security is the key theme that we hear constantly across financial services. They want to be able to do more with their data, but really putting the guardrails in place that allows them to do that in a compliant way without heightening the risk is crucially important. So that's kind of where Snowflake plays, and together with our partners, we're really implementing that approach for the industry.
Now, Peter, how can effective partnerships help me identify and overcome the risks that we've been talking about with data and risk? From your perspective at DXC, what are the key challenges and considerations that your customers are navigating?
Well, one interesting one that's coming out over the last 2 or 3 years, and this comes, I work across different verticals, and as the public sector starts embracing modern data platforms, their budgets are fixed. They're concerned about the consumption model and how variable it is. If you look back over the last 4 or 5 years where banks are embracing the tech, they're looking at the positive, the innovative side of this, and probably not looking over the shoulder at building an architecture that controls those costs. So as then organizations realize that costs could be coming out of control, over-consuming because we haven't thought about compute or store, it's becoming clear that the banks are getting more concerned in making sure the architecture's right. Alongside that, the public sector are coming along looking at innovative models where they could partner with people to control that number. Can they ask their SI partner to put a cap on consumption and be predictive and manage that cloud operation in a way that they can understand what their costs are, because they can't flex a budget up? And I think from the experience that we and other SIs like us, we've got that experience now. We've got the experience of managing on-prem mainframes and operation centers. We've got a lot of experience of working with cloud platforms now, and we've got very good relationships with those hyperscalers as partners. So we can work with the organizations to think of an architecture that works, call out the caveats, and use analytics itself to help model, manage, and support those costs that are constrained and understood without, and also making sure you deliver. I think that's one thing I'm seeing we've been learning. And often it hasn't been maybe 4 or 5 years ago the key ask of a bank. It just wants to get ahead of the curve and be innovative. And it may not be thinking about controlling its delivery costs and subsequent operating costs in those models.
All right, we are here today with Peter O'Keefe, Chief Data Officer at DXC Technology, also Rinesh Patel, Head of Financial Services Industry at Snowflake, and Dave Wilson, Chief Technologist for Banking and Capital Markets at DXC Technology. If you have a question for one of our guests, please do feel free to enter it into the chat feature. That's where we'll be looking for your questions, and we will have a few moments here at near the end of our program for your questions for our panel today. Now, gentlemen, I'd like to move on to, in interest of time, I'd like to move on to our third discussion point today. We've been talking about data, we've been talking about risk, we've been talking about partnerships, but really it all comes down, in my view, about the experience of customers. And customers are expecting a different kind of experience than we used to just a few years ago. Certainly in banking and financial services, that is a major driver for innovation and market penetration for banks, with a lot of competition coming on board that is really focused on that streamlining that customer experience. Peter, from your perspective, what kinds of great experiences do banking and financial services industry organizations need to create today to build that type of customer experience and really gain that market share and adoption among their customers today?
Well, I'm beginning to see a fracture in two communities: the Gen Z community that's just working straight off a phone, and then everybody else who's still looking at a bank
Right.
as not necessarily bricks and mortar, but still that terms of engagement. So I think there's opportunities. I know what I'd like to buy. I'd like to have an all-consuming application giving me access to everything, prompting me about my subscriptions to channels. A number of people do that, allowing me to buy a house, so like the Norwegian model with digital identity. I think overall,
Right.
it's not just going to be what a bank can control, but how society moves around it. The expectation of our young adolescents in Gen Z is just to push the boundaries back. An ability to move money across borders, ability to acquire anything they have if they've got money in the bank. And that change is imperative. And when you've seen simple obstacles like payment infrastructure and not being able to send small payments abroad from the UAE to India, these are real world problems for people and expensive. We should be solving these problems and do it readily. And that's a, and I might be a bit cynical, but I've worked in Swift in the past and talking to banks, and banks aren't always wanting to be innovative. If they can make a buck over here, it could cost $100 over there, driving efficiency historically, but that shouldn't stop us innovating. And I remember one of the it's almost a challenge. If you go back to Cybos in 2006, the plenary in Sydney was about, were PayPal ever going to be a true disruptor? And the answer is yes, and then others have come. So I'm still interested in what's coming around the outside, how technology can change, how our young adolescents are choosing to consume that stuff and what their expectations are. But outside of banking, I'm just glad that Disney or Paramount have given me the right TV that I want to see, rather than getting horror movies that get a good country western movie.
Well, Dave, do you agree? I mean, some folks might be skeptical. This is a great vision that Peter has outlined, but some folks may be skeptical of it actually happening, certainly in 2024. Many folks feeling that the financial services industry is pretty far behind the curve when it comes to these types of digital innovations. Do you feel that is so? And what is your outlook for these new experiences in customer experience?
I agree with what Peter said. So, I mean, you think that everything's driven from a social media platform, then the term super apps is now being talked about. So a super app that can allow you to do everything. That's great. But I mean, the opposite side to that is, from a super app perspective, is who controls the super app? Are they controlling censorship of what you actually see? So there's some challenges from that point of view. In terms of financial services, I think the biggest threat is startups. You know, I mean, Peter used the example of PayPal, but there's plenty of areas now that organisations are looking at how they can get a competitive advantage, providing certain small niche financial services that will start eating away at the large tier one financial corporations and banks. So I think competition is a key threat, and if the organisations and the banks aren't willing to innovate and actually drive change through digital transformation, then they will get left behind, and they will lose market share in terms of their current user base, for example.
Rinesh, do you agree with that? What will it take for organizations in financial services to turn that corner and start being competitive in terms of their the experience that they provide to their customers?
I think there's different maturity curve in financial services. I think you're already seeing the largest banks quite mature in their evolution in cloud and building a data strategy, and they're already deriving some of the benefits of that investment that they've made. And so I think there's a few that still have to accelerate their adoption, but I think by and large most have understood that their investments in cloud is really to deliver a data strategy, and actually the outcome of that is to solve real commercial problems. So effectively what they're building is a commercial data platform, not a technology platform. And I think the outcomes are pretty consistent. I think if you think about banks, I think you'll hear banks and partners and customers talking about this vision of or a primary use case of Customer 360. And we're already seeing customers do that. We're seeing customers break down their data silos, bring together their marketing analytics, their CRMs, their mobile interactions, their emails together to get a better view of their customer. But on Snowflake, they're going beyond that initial step of just marketing and ad tech. They're now enriching their client data with high value external data, like with ADP, Experian, Equifax, applying AI and machine learning models and training resources, and then serving the results back into models that serve low latency applications and workflows to effectively drive business outcomes, i.e. next best action, product recommendations, cross-sell, upsell opportunities, and that better experience overall. So, that's an example of how banks are doing it. I think in the space of asset management, I think quants are doing it. I think today's quants, as they think about systematic strategies, are leveraging more and more diverse content sets than ever before, like company balance sheets, forecast information, price, more and more alternative data. And they would have to, source that data, ingest that data, store that data, run it back across, many, many decades. And they will consistently rank ETL as their biggest issue, i.e. they're spending too much time managing repairing data as opposed to formulating those back tests. Now, through the investments that they've made in cloud and their data strategies, they're migrating those quant processes to the cloud. They're reducing the cost of ETL. They're running more complex analytics across more data sets, and then serving up those suggestions to a variety of stakeholders in their organization. Right. So I think there are examples of experiences today that are pretty mature in financial services. I think this is about accelerating a certain tranche of financial services customers to move faster by leveraging some of the good work that certain organizations have already done and sharing those experiences to help us as an industry move faster and further.
All right, very good. Well, gentlemen, in the time that we have remaining, we have just only a few minutes left. We are getting some questions and comments in from our audience. So I'd like to just pop some of these out to the group as a whole for your comments. This question here from Esme. Thank you, Esme, for your question today. In the context of digital transformation, how do organizations overcome the challenge of aligning diverse partner ecosystems with their strategic goals, and what key strategies can be employed to foster effective communication and collaboration among partners in this dynamic environment? Real quick, gentlemen, do you have a comment for yes, Peter, go right ahead.
I'll take that, because over the last few years that I've been within DXC, we've been spinning up innovation labs, which have included the partner community that the organization wants to work with, and set a challenge and working. And the other side of that commitment is a commitment from the organization itself to give us some time with people. And through that, we can work at pace with people and create something interesting. And it's not original. Our competitors do it again, and others. So to Esme, reach out to your partner community and ask them, would they be willing to work in an innovative way on an innovation lab to a specific problem, and look at your organization investing in that as well. That's worked with us in the past, and we've had some really interesting things, not just in banking, but in Europe around energy and utility usage. Some great ideas come up putting everyone in a room under pressure.
All right, very good. That is Peter O'Keefe. We're also here with Dave Wilson and Renish Patel. We've been talking about leveraging partnerships in financial services and for digital transformation and digital innovation. Gentlemen, we have reached the action item round of our program today. I'm wondering if each of you could please provide us with one quick action item that our audience can use today to take advantage of the ideas and advice. Renish, do you have an action item for us today?
Yeah, I think it follows on from the question from Esme. And I think collaboration. I think as an industry, we've been somewhat built to compete, not built to collaborate. And I think when you think about the journey that we're on right now, this is really about bringing together polarized expertise across technology, data, and business together. So my advice and my counsel will be effective collaboration. Think about, how you can better partner with those different stakeholders that bring a different insight, and how you can build a target operating model that reflects that expertise. I think that will allow organizations to move faster in how they, build their data strategies and solve those business problems at pace.
That is Rinesh Patel, Head of Financial Services Industry at Snowflake. Rinesh, thank you so much for your action item today. Dave, how about you? Do you have an action item for our audience today?
Yeah, I think use your partners better. I mean, I feel that a lot of the times when I'm talking to the client, they don't really fully appreciate that, you know, we are gateways into a lot of experience, a lot of collateral, etc. And, you know, not always is it used. So I think if you've got a partner, exploit the partner a lot better, you know.
That is Dave Wilson, Chief Technologist at DXC Technology. Dave, thank you so much for your action items today. And finally, Peter O'Keefe. Peter, what's your action item for us today?
I learned a phrase 20 years ago working for Swift when I was trying to create utility offerings for the market, bit of an evangelist. And the challenge that came from the States is you can't sell Thanksgiving to turkeys. So, or in the UK, you can't sell Christmas to turkeys. One of the key things to stop blocking transformation is just people, especially in the current environment, afraid of their jobs. Any successful transformation is going to have to bring your workforce with you and everyone around you. So managing change, communicating what's in it for them all the way, and removing those barriers is critical to the success of any of these programs. If people feel as though a new tech is going to make something efficient, that Luddite behavior that came from the 16th century in the UK will manifest itself. So please sell the story to the rest of your team, build a culture that embraces change, that demonstrates to the rest of your workforce, your partners, your suppliers, and your customers that everybody benefits. And hopefully then it'll drive the success of your program.
That is Peter O'Keefe, also Dave Wilson and Rinesh Patel. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us today. What a great panel. Your perspectives and advice were spot on. So thank you so much. I hope that we get a chance to talk again soon. And to everyone joining us today, thank you too. Please join us again next time, December 12th at 1600 British time, when we will talk with another great panel of experts about prioritizing cybersecurity in your operational technology transformation. That should be another great discussion. So I'm looking forward to that. If you'd like to find me, you can do so on LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect there. Check me out. I'm Kevin Crane, and you can check out my weekly audio podcast as well, the Digital Transformation Podcast. But for now, that'll do it for this episode of Digital Transformation Talk. And until next time, I am Kevin Crane. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin.